She carried the scent of a dying world, and it drove everyone away, until one human breathed deeply and whispered, "It reminds me of home." The year was 2157, and Earth had changed in ways people from the past could never imagine. Flying cars moved between glass towers that touched the clouds. But the biggest change wasn't the technology. It was the fact that humans weren't alone anymore. The new Geneva Integration Center stood like a massive crystal dome in what used to be Switzerland. Inside, beings from different worlds learned to live together. Some looked almost human. Others were completely different. All of them had one thing in common: they needed a new home. Zara walked through the center's main doors on a cold Tuesday morning. She looked human enough from far away. 2 arms, 2 legs, a face with eyes and a mouth. But up close, things were different. Her skin had a slight blue tint like morning sky. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, and they changed color with her mood. Right now, they were a worried gray. But the most noticeable thing about Zara wasn't how she looked. It was how she smelled. The moment she entered the building, people turned their heads. Not because she was beautiful or strange-looking. They turned because of the scent that followed her everywhere she went. It wasn't bad exactly. It was just different. Like standing in a garden after heavy rain, mixed with the smell of old coins and the air before a thunderstorm. On her home planet, this scent was normal. Everyone had it. It told other people how you felt, what you were thinking, even memories from your past. It was like talking without words, but here on Earth, people didn't understand. They just knew it made them feel uncomfortable. Zara's first stop was the registration desk. The human worker, a young woman with kind eyes, smiled at her. But as Zara got closer, the woman's smile became forced. She tried not to breathe through her nose. "Welcome to the Integration Center," the worker said, speaking a bit too fast. "Here's your room key and meal card. Breakfast is at 7, lunch at noon, dinner at 6. Any questions?" Zara wanted to ask many things. Where could she find others? From her planet? How long would she need to stay here? Would she ever feel at home on Earth? But she could see the worker wanted her to leave quickly. "No questions," Zara said softly. "Thank you." She took her things and walked toward the elevators. Behind her, she heard the worker take a deep breath, like someone who had been holding it for too long. The elevator was crowded when it opened. People moved aside to make room, which seemed polite. But as soon as Zara stepped inside, she noticed something. Everyone had somehow moved to the very edges of the elevator. They weren't just making room, they were getting as far away from her as possible. A man near the buttons asked, "Which floor?" "7th, Zara replied. He pressed the button without looking at her. The elevator ride felt like it took forever. Nobody talked. Everyone stared at the floor numbers above the door. When it reached the 7th floor, Zara stepped out quickly. She heard someone whisper, "Finally," as the doors closed behind her. Her room was small but clean. A bed, a desk, a small bathroom, and a window that looked out over the city. She sat on the bed and looked around. Back home, her family had a house that smelled like all of them together. Different scents mixing and telling the story of their day, their feelings, their love for each other. Here, her room just smelled like cleaning products and loneliness. The next few days followed the same pattern. Zara would go to meals and tables, would slowly empty as she looked for a place to sit. She would join activities and people would find reasons to stand far away. In classes about Earth culture, she always ended up in the back row with empty seats around her like an invisible wall. Nobody was mean to her. Nobody said cruel words. But nobody wanted to be near her either. They would smile and nod when they had to talk to her. They would answer her questions politely. But they always found ways to end conversations quickly. The worst part was that Zara could smell their emotions too. Fear, disgust, confusion. These feelings mixed with their human sense created something that made her homesick. On her planet, when someone felt scared or confused, others would come closer. They would share comforting scents to help. Here, fear and confusion made people run away. After a week, Zara started eating her meals in her room. She would take food from the cafeteria and leave quickly. She spent most of her time alone, looking out her window at the city below. Sometimes she would see humans walking together, laughing and talking. She wondered if she would ever have that. At night, when the building was quiet, Zara would walk the empty halls. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. During these walks, she felt most like herself. Nobody was avoiding her. Nobody was trying not to breathe near her. She was just a being walking through space, existing without apology. But even these quiet moments reminded her how alone she was. One evening, she found herself in the center's garden. It was a beautiful space with plants from many different worlds. Earth flowers grew next to crystal trees from distant planets. The mix of scents here was complex and interesting. For the first time since arriving, Zara felt like her own scent belonged somewhere. She sat on a bench and closed her eyes. Maybe this was her place on Earth. Not with people, but with plants and quiet spaces. Maybe some beings were meant to live alone. But deep down, she hoped that wasn't true. Every being in the universe needed connection. Even her. 3 weeks had passed since Zara first walked through the doors of the Integration Center. 3 weeks of empty chairs around her at every meal. 3 weeks of conversations that stopped when she entered a room. 3 weeks of people finding urgent things to do whenever she tried to join their activities. The morning started like all the others. Zara's alarm buzzed at 6:30. She got dressed in the simple clothes the center provided, a blue shirt and gray pants that looked like what everyone else wore. She brushed her teeth and looked at herself in the small bathroom mirror. Her eyes had turned a dull purple color, the shade they became when she felt hopeless. Walking to the cafeteria had become a test of courage. Each day, she told herself that maybe today would be different. Maybe someone would smile at her genuinely. Maybe someone would ask her to sit with them. But as she entered the large dining hall, the same thing happened as always. The busy chatter of breakfast conversations grew quieter, not silent, but softer. People didn't stop talking completely, but they spoke in hushed voices, like they were in a library instead of a cafeteria. Eyes glanced her way and then quickly looked somewhere else. Zara picked up a tray and moved through the food line. The kitchen staff was always polite to her. They would nod and ask what she wanted to eat, but even they worked quickly, serving her food faster than they served others, eager to move on to the next person. She chose a table near the windows, hoping that looking outside might make her feel less trapped. As she sat down, she watched the familiar dance begin. The table next to hers had 4 people eating and laughing together. Within 2 minutes, one person remembered they had to make an important call. Another suddenly realized they were late for a meeting. By the time Zara had taken 3 bites of her breakfast, she was sitting alone in a circle of empty tables. This isolation was starting to change her in ways she didn't like. Back on her home planet, Zara had been social and outgoing. She loved meeting new people and learning their stories. Her scent had always been warm and inviting, drawing others to share their thoughts and feelings with her. But here, her scent was becoming sharp and bitter. The loneliness was changing the natural chemicals her body produced. Instead of the rain and earth smell that was her normal scent, she now carried hints of something sour and sad. This only made things worse as humans found her presence even more uncomfortable than before. After breakfast, Zara attended her daily earth culture class. The teacher, Dr. Rodriguez, was a kind woman who always tried to include everyone in discussions. Today's topic was human traditions around food and family. On Earth, sharing meals is one of our most important social activities, Dr. Rodriguez explained. We gather with friends and family to celebrate, to comfort each other, and to build relationships. Food brings people together. Zara listened and felt a deep ache in her chest. On her planet, sharing scents during meals was just as important as sharing food. Families would sit close together, their different aromas mixing to tell stories of love, support, and belonging. She missed those dinners more than anything else about home. During the class discussion, Dr. Rodriguez asked students to share traditions from their own worlds. A crystalline being from the Centauri system spoke about how her people sang together, while eating, their voices creating beautiful harmonies. A plant-like creature from the Vega system described how his species shared nutrients directly through touching root systems. When it was Zara's turn, she hesitated. On my planet, we share emotions and memories through scent while we eat. It makes the food taste better when you can smell the happiness and love of your family. The room grew quiet. Not the comfortable quiet of people listening carefully, but the awkward quiet of people feeling uncomfortable. Dr. Rodriguez smiled encouragingly, but Zara could see the other students shifting in their seats, trying not to breathe too deeply. "That sounds beautiful," Dr. Rodriguez said gently. "Different species have such wonderful ways of connecting." But Zara could tell that to most humans in the room, it didn't sound beautiful. It sounded strange and foreign and wrong. After class, Zara overheard two human students talking in the hallway. They didn't know she was behind them, walking slowly and quietly. "I feel bad for her," one of them said. "She seems nice enough, but that smell is just too much. I can't concentrate on anything when she's in the room." "I know," replied the other. "Maybe she could do something about it, like take medicine or something?" Dr. Martinez mentioned that to her, but she refused. She said it would be like asking us to cut out our tongues. "Well, maybe some species just aren't meant to live with humans. It's not anyone's fault. But we can't help how we react to things." Zara stopped walking. Those words hit her like a physical blow. Maybe some species just aren't meant to live with humans. Was that true? Was she fighting for something that was impossible? That afternoon, she had her weekly meeting with Dr. Martinez, the center's counselor. Dr. Martinez was a middle-aged woman with gray hair and gentle hands. She always met with Zara in her office, which had large windows and plants everywhere. "How are you feeling this week, Zara?" Dr. Martinez asked, settling into her chair. "Lonely," Zara answered honestly. "Every day, more lonely." Dr. Martinez nodded. "I've been thinking about your situation. Have you reconsidered the scent masking treatment? It's completely safe and it might help you integrate better with the human population." Zara's eyes flashed from purple to red, the color they turned when she felt angry or frustrated. "Would you ask a human to remove their ability to speak? To never use words again?" "Of course not," Dr. Martinez replied. "But this is different." "How? Is it different?" Zara asked. "My scent is how I communicate my deepest feelings. It's how I connect with others. It's part of who I am. If I hide that, then I'm not really me anymore. And if humans can only accept me when I'm not myself, then they're not really accepting me at all." Dr. Martinez was quiet for a long moment. "You make a good point," she admitted. "But I'm worried about you. This isolation is affecting your mental health. Your scent has changed since you arrived. It's becoming more intense." Zara knew this was true. She could feel it happening. The sadness and loneliness were changing her natural chemistry. She was becoming exactly what the humans feared. Someone whose scent made them uncomfortable. "What if I requested transfer to a colony world?" Zara asked quietly. "Somewhere with fewer humans. Is that what you want?" Zara looked out the window at the bustling city beyond. Humans walking together, talking and laughing, sharing their lives in ways she might never be able to join. "I don't know what I want anymore," she said. "I came here hoping to build a new life, but maybe I was fooling myself. Maybe home is the only place where I truly belong." As she walked back to her room that evening, Zara felt something breaking inside her. Hope, maybe. Or the belief that understanding between different species was possible. She was tired of being strong. Tired of pretending that the constant rejection didn't hurt. That night, she stood at her window looking down at the city lights. Somewhere out there, millions of humans were sharing meals, telling stories, building relationships. And here she was alone in a small room, wondering if she would ever find her place in this vast universe. Tomorrow, she decided, she would start the paperwork for transfer to a remote colony. It felt like giving up, but maybe some battles weren't meant to be won. The friendship between Zara and Chen started slowly, like a flower opening its petals one at a time. After that first breakfast together, they began meeting regularly in the cafeteria. Chen would finish his morning maintenance rounds and join Zara at her corner table by the windows. What had once been the loneliest spot in the entire center was now her favorite place to be. Chen was a curious person by nature. During their second breakfast together, he asked Zara to explain how scent communication worked on her planet. She had never tried to teach this to a human before, but Chen listened with genuine interest. "Right now you smell like contentment mixed with a little bit of nervousness," Zara told him. "The contentment is warm and steady, like bread baking. The nervousness is sharper, like the smell of rain on hot pavement." Chen looked amazed. "You can tell I'm nervous?" "A little bit, yes, are you?" "Actually, yes," Chen admitted. "I'm nervous about asking you this next question." Zara tilted her head, waiting. "Would you be willing to teach me more about this? I mean, really teach me? I've spent my whole life around humans who communicate mostly with words and facial expressions. The idea that there's this whole other language happening through scent, it's fascinating." Zara's eyes brightened from their usual purple to a warm golden color. "You really want to learn?" "I really do." And so began what Chen jokingly called scent school. Every day after breakfast, they would spend an hour together, with Zara teaching Chen to notice the subtle changes in her natural aromatics. It wasn't easy. Human noses weren't designed to pick up the complex chemical messages that Zara's people took for granted. But Chen was determined, and he had that unusual sensitivity that made him more aware of scents than most humans. Happiness smells like sunshine on grass, Zara would explain. Sadness is like cold rain on stone. Excitement is sharp and bright like lightning. Fear is metallic and bitter. Chen would close his eyes and breathe carefully, trying to identify what Zara was feeling. At first, he was wrong most of the time. But gradually, day by day, he began to understand the language of her emotions. The change in Zara was remarkable. As she spent more time with someone who valued her natural communication style, her scent returned to its original warm, earthy tone. The bitter notes of loneliness faded away. She walked taller, spoke more confidently, and began joining group activities again. But the most surprising change was how other humans began to react to her. It started with Dr. Martinez. During one of their weekly counseling sessions, she commented that Zara seemed much more relaxed and positive. "Whatever has changed in your life recently, it's having a wonderful effect," Dr. Martinez said. "I made a friend," Zara replied simply. "That's wonderful news. Would you like to tell me about them?" Zara described her friendship with Chen and how he was learning to understand her scent communication. Dr. Martinez listened with growing excitement. "This is exactly the kind of breakthrough we hope for," she said. "Would you and Chen be willing to speak at our next staff meeting? Your experience could help us better assist other residents who are struggling with integration." The following week, Zara found herself standing in front of 30 staff members, with Chen beside her for support. She was nervous. Her scent carried hints of anxiety that Chen could now easily identify. He gave her an encouraging nod. "3 months ago, I thought I would have to leave Earth," Zara began. "I believed that humans and my people could never truly understand each other. But Chen showed me that understanding is possible when someone is willing to try." She explained how scent communication worked and how the isolation had been affecting not just her emotions but her physical chemistry as well. Chen added his perspective about growing up on Europa and how his childhood experiences had prepared him to appreciate, rather than fear, Zara's natural scent. The key, Chen told the staff, was approaching it with curiosity instead of judgment. Instead of thinking this smells strange and uncomfortable, I tried to think this is different and interesting. What might it mean? After their presentation, Dr. Martinez approached them with an idea. "Would you both be interested in developing a program to help other residents? We have several species here that communicate through chemical signals, and they're all struggling with similar issues." That's how the Integration Communication Project was born. Zara and Chen began working together to create workshops for both humans and non-human residents. They developed simple exercises to help humans become more aware of scent-based communication and techniques to help aromatic species adapt to human environments without losing their cultural identity. Their first workshop had 12 participants, 6 humans and 6 non-human residents. Zara was nervous again, but this time her anxiety smelled different to Chen. Not the bitter fear of rejection, but the sharp excitement of someone about to try something new and important. Communication is more than just words, Zara told the Y group. For my people, scent carries emotion, memory, and connection. We're not asking humans to become like us, but maybe we can find ways to understand each other better. One of the human participants, a young man from the kitchen staff, raised his hand. I've noticed that some of the non-human residents seem sad or anxious in the dining areas. Could their scents be telling us something we're missing? Absolutely, Chen replied. What we interpret as strange or uncomfortable might actually be someone saying, I'm homesick, or I'm afraid, or I'm trying to be friendly. The workshop was a success. Participants left with a new awareness of nonverbal communication and practical strategies for building cross-species relationships. Word spread quickly through the center, and soon they had a waiting list for future workshops. But the real change came in small daily moments. Humans began approaching Zara with questions about her planet and her people. Some discovered they actually enjoyed the complexity of her scent when they stopped fighting it and started listening to what it was saying. Others found that while they couldn't tolerate it for long periods, they could appreciate it in small doses, especially now that they understood its meaning. The cafeteria began to feel different too. While Zara still sat mostly with Chen, other people occasionally joined their table. Dr. Martinez would stop by to chat about the integration project. Kitchen staff would ask about her preferences for foods from her home planet. Even some of the newer residents, inspired by Chen's example, made efforts to connect with residents from different species. One evening, as Zara and Chen worked together, in the center's small library preparing materials for their next workshop, Chen looked up from the papers he was organizing. Can I tell you something? He asked. Of course. That first day when I sat with you, I wasn't being completely honest. About why? Zara looked up from her tablet, curious. What do you mean? I mean, yes, your scent did remind me of home, but that's not the only reason I sat down. What was the other reason? Chen was quiet for a moment. I was lonely too, he said finally. I've worked at this center for 3 years. I fix things, I maintain the gardens, I keep the building running. But most people don't really see maintenance staff. We're just part of the background. I eat most of my meals alone, just like you were doing. Zara felt a wave of understanding wash over her. So when you saw me sitting alone, I saw someone else who knew what it felt like to be invisible. Chen finished. The scent thing was real. It really did remind me of my grandmother and Europa. But honestly, I would have sat with you anyway. Sometimes lonely people need to find each other. Zara reached across the table and squeezed his hand. I'm glad we found each other. As they worked together that evening, preparing to help other residents build bridges across species lines, Zara realized something important. The friendship that had saved her from isolation was now helping to save others. What had started as 2 lonely people sharing a meal had grown into something that was making the entire integration center a more welcoming place for everyone. Change, she thought, sometimes starts with just one person willing to sit down and stay. 6 months had passed since that rainy Thursday morning when Chen first sat across from Zara in the cafeteria. The integration center looked the same from the outside, but inside, something fundamental had changed. The hallways carried a different energy now, warmer, more connected, more accepting. Zara stood at her window on a bright spring morning, looking down at the gardens where she used to walk alone at night. Now those same paths were busy with residents from different worlds, walking together, sharing conversations, building friendships that would have seemed impossible just months before. The integration communication project had grown beyond anything she and Chen had imagined. What started as simple workshops had become a full program, with trained volunteers helping new arrivals navigate cross-species communication. The center's administration had been so impressed with the results that they were sharing the program with integration centers across Earth. But for Zara, the most meaningful changes were the small, personal ones. Like yesterday, when she was eating lunch and a group of human teenagers asked if they could join her table, not because they had to for some class assignment, but because they were genuinely curious about her planet and wanted to hear her stories. They laughed together about the differences between Earth food and Kepleran cuisine, and when Zara described the floating cities of her homeworld, their eyes filled with wonder instead of discomfort. Or last week, when she was walking through the center's main lobby and overheard a conversation between two staff members. "Have you met Zara yet?" one was saying to the other. "She's amazing. She's teaching us so much about nonverbal communication. You should attend one of her workshops." The person being spoken about wasn't the alien with the strange smell anymore. She was Zara, the teacher, the friend, the valuable member of their community. This morning brought exciting news. Dr. Martinez had called Zara to her office to discuss a new opportunity. "The New Geneva University has been following your work here," Dr. Martinez explained, sliding a tablet across her desk. "They're starting a new department focused on interspecies communication and cultural integration. They want you to lead it." Zara looked at the official invitation on the screen. Professor of Cross-Species Communication Studies, her own research laboratory. A chance to work with students from across the galaxy who were interested in building bridges between different forms of life. "It's a wonderful opportunity," Dr. Martinez continued. "You'd be the first non-human department head at the university. The position comes with full Earth citizenship and a permanent residence visa." Zara felt a complex mix of emotions flooding through her. Excitement, gratitude, and something else. Something that felt like home. "There's something else," Dr. Martinez said with a smile. "Chen has been offered a position as the department's technical coordinator. If you both accept, you'd be working together to build something completely new." That afternoon, Zara and Chen sat in their usual spot in the cafeteria, but this time they were celebrating instead of just sharing a meal. Other residents and staff kept stopping by their table to congratulate them and wish them well. The Gukyu, same corner that had once been a place of isolation, had become the center's unofficial gathering spot for good news and friendship. "Are you nervous about leaving here?" Chen asked as they watched the familiar bustle of the dining room. "A little," Zara admitted. "This place has been my whole world for so long, but I'm excited too. We'll be able to help so many more people. And we'll still be working together," Chen added. "That's the best part." As they talked about their plans for the university program, Zara realized something that surprised her. When she first arrived at the integration center, she had thought of it as a temporary stop, a place to stay until she could find her real home on Earth. But now she understood that home wasn't a place at all. Home was the feeling of being accepted for who you truly are. Home was having someone understand your deepest form of communication. Home was being valued for the very traits that once made you feel different and alone. Her scent had changed again over these months, but this time in the best possible way. The warm, earthy bass notes were still there, but now they carried new elements: confidence, purpose, joy. Chen had learned to read these changes like a book, and he often commented on how her emotional aromatics told the story of her transformation. "Know what's interesting?" Chen said as they finished their meal. "Your scent now has hints of something I've never noticed before." "What's that?" Zara asked. "It smells like belonging, like someone who has found their place in the world." Zara smiled. "That's because I have." Their last week at the integration center was filled with goodbye parties, farewell meetings, and promises to stay in touch. The residents they had worked with gave them a beautiful gift, a photo album filled with pictures from their workshops, along with written messages in dozens of different languages and scripts. On their final morning, Zara and Chen had one last breakfast together at their corner table. The cafeteria was busy as always, but now it was busy in a different way. She could see humans and non-humans sitting together at many tables, sharing meals and conversations that wouldn't have happened before their program began. "Look at that," Chen said, nodding toward a table where a crystalline centaurian was teaching a group of human children how to create musical tones by touching their crystal formations. 6 months ago, everyone was afraid to get close to her because they thought she might be fragile. And now she's one of the most popular residents in the children's program, Zara added. Turns out that when people stopped worrying about accidentally breaking her, they discovered how beautiful her music is. As they packed their belongings that afternoon, Zara found the transfer request forms she had filled out on that dark night when she thought about leaving Earth entirely. She had never submitted them, but she had kept them as a reminder of how close she had come to giving up. Now she tore them into small pieces and threw them away. That frightened, lonely person who had wanted to hide on a distant moon felt like someone from a different lifetime. The moving vehicle arrived to take them to the university. As they loaded their boxes and suitcases, residents and staff gathered to see them off. Dr. Martinez gave them each a hug and made them promise to visit regularly. The kitchen staff gave them a basket of their favorite foods for the journey. But the most meaningful goodbye came from a young Kepleran girl who had arrived at the center just 2 weeks before. She was still struggling with the same isolation that Zara had experienced, but now she had hope because she could see that integration was possible. "Will I ever feel at home here?" the girl asked Zara quietly. "You already are home," Zara told her gently. "You just haven't realized it yet. Home isn't about changing yourself to fit in. It's about finding people who appreciate you for exactly who you are. And those people are here, waiting to meet you." As their vehicle pulled away from the integration center, Zara looked back at the crystal dome that had been her world for so many months. She thought about that first day when she had walked through those doors feeling scared and alone, carrying a scent that seemed to mark her as forever foreign. Now she was leaving as a professor, a teacher, a bridge builder between worlds. Her scent was exactly the same as it had always been, but everything else had changed. The difference wasn't in her. It was in finding people who chose to understand rather than avoid, to listen rather than judge, to sit down rather than walk.